Hi, this is Foodie Hamsel, and this week I'm going to be showing you how to make some homemade bread. Hi there, so for this recipe your ingredients, you'll need 250 grams of strong bread flour, you'll need 2 teaspoons of dried yeast, you'll need 15 grams of margarine, you'll need half a teaspoon of sugar and half a level teaspoon of salt. You'll also need 125 mils of warm water, which you can get from the tap. Okay, so we're going to start by using our strong bread flour and we're going to sieve it into our bowl. This does incorporate air, get rid of any lumps. Also check there's no weevils in there. So the strong bread flour we are using contains more gluten than the normal flour, such as plain flour or self-raising, and the gluten, when mixed with the water shortly in the recipe, will actually make the dough really nice and stretchy. So it's really important that we choose a strong white bread flour such as this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rub in our margarine. So there's only 15 grams, so the 15 grams are going in so. Top tip, cover it over, cover the margarine over with your flour, and you're going to use the rubbing in method. So it's basically money, so a little bit of margarine against a lot of flour until you can't see your margarine at all. So the purpose of the fat is to add flavour. It also extends the shelf life. It also changes the colour. Okay, and the reason we're using our fingertips is to try and keep it as cool as possible, just like if you were making pastry. So we're doing the rubbing in method. Okay, if I wasn't using a glass bowl and I was using my plastic one, I'd be quite tempted to give it a quick tap just to see if any larger lumps come to the surface. I think I'm pretty safe, so I'm going to go with that. Hi, so we need to preheat our oven, so we need to turn it to 220 degrees centigrade, and also I'm using a fan oven as well, so I will need to turn that on. So the reason we're turning it to 220 degrees is to eventually kill the yeast. So we're going to add our yeast, so we're going to add 2 teaspoons of our yeast. We're going to add our 1/4 level teaspoon of sugar, a 1/4 level teaspoon of salt. Don't do it over the bowl, just in case the lid pops. So the sugar is there to activate the yeast. The salt is there as flavouring. Do not put the salt with the yeast, else it will kill it. Okay, and we do not want to do that, not at this stage. We're now going to stir in our sugar and yeast and then incorporate the salt. And then we're going to add our 125 mils of warm water. If it's too hot, it will kill the yeast. If it's too cold, it won't activate the yeast. You're going to add your water gradually, a drop at a time, because otherwise it might go to a really squidgy mixture really quickly, and you want it to go to a dough. So add a little bit at a time. And if you remember, I told you that the water, along with the gluten that's inside the flour, is going to make your dough stretchy. So the gluten is actually the protein within the wheat. You might not need all of your water. As soon as you can see that your dough is starting to come together into a ball, that's the point when you stop. If it doesn't, then you can continue adding your water. Brown, just a note that wholemeal flour tends to absorb the water quicker than strong white bread flour. Okay, so therefore it might be that you go over the 125, just to be aware of that. Okay, I'm thinking I might be there, as in I've got to the right consistency. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a tiny drop of water left. So what I'm going to do is just use my hands to try and bring it together into a dough ball. And it should bring off all the little bits on the side of the bowl, so that you end up with a cleanish bowl. Put back in the food cupboard, obviously, but just clean enough to go into your washing up water, so you've not got bits floating around in it. Okay, I think I'm there. It's all come together. There aren't any bits that are dropping off as such. Okay, and I'm ready for kneading. Okay, so sprinkle some flour onto the work surface, because I'm now going to be showing you how to knead. So the kneading, you're going to use the heel part of your hand, and you can either push away and bring back, and push away and bring back, and push away and bring back, and push away and bring back. Or you could do it a slower method where you punch the dough and you're bringing into the middle, punch the dough, bring into the middle, punch the dough, bring into the middle. So it's up to you which technique you do. Okay, and you will need to do that for approximately 5 minutes. Okay, so your arm might be aching at the end of it. Okay, so thinking about yeast, yeast is a unicellular fungus, so it needs 4 things to grow. It needs time, it needs moisture, it needs warmth, and it needs food. Okay, so your food is obviously your flour, your moisture is your water, your warmth is generally a warm area, such as either a warm airing cupboard or maybe the top of an oven that if you've preheated your oven, you could use the top of your oven to actually prove. Or in the olden days, they might have used a windowsill and then put a tea towel over it to stop it drying out. So this is known as proving. So what I'm actually doing at the moment though is kneading. Okay, for 5 minutes. You'll need to grease your tin in order to make sure that your dough doesn't stick. So, yeast is sometimes known as a biological raising agent, which in the presence of food and moisture grow and ferment to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. This reaction takes place more quickly in warm conditions than in cold ones, and yeast can be killed by overheating. Okay, so once you've done it for 5 minutes, you're then going to place it on your tray, and you're going to place it in the top oven, which isn't on, for 20 minutes. Top oven not on, bottom oven on. Hot air is rising, so this is the convection that's taking place into my top oven. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes, so I'm going to take it out of the oven. Remember, it was the top oven, so it's not hot. Notice that the dough is risen and it's slightly bigger than it was previously. Okay, so I'm going to get this into a sausage shape. The reason for this is so that I can cut it and mark it into 4 pieces. You could re-knead it if you want to. So re-kneading it, you're going to use your thumb and your index finger. I'm going to go into the middle like so, so that when you turn it over, you can karate chop it a little bit. Okay, you should end up with a smooth area. The reason why you're kneading it is so that you can get rid of any large air bubbles. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to do the snowman or cottage loaf. So you'll need a small piece and a large piece of the one section. You're going to do your small world kneading, which is your thumb and your index finger, turning it like so. Karate chop it underneath. Do the same with the smaller section. Again, karate chop it underneath. I'm going to place the smaller one on top of the large one. It looks like a bit like a snowman. And you're going to put, if your dough's too wet, don't be afraid to flour it first. But if it's not, put your thumb all the way through its head, halfway through its body is the plait. So you're going to cut your dough into 3 pieces. You're going to roll your dough out into a sausage. I'm going to give it a wiggle. Do the same with the other one. Give it a wiggle. You need equal lengths. Again, give it a wiggle. Okay, so you'll need to join the ends up at the top, like so, just by pressing it down. Okay, and you're going to call it left, middle and right. But what you need to know is that your middle will change at each opportunity. So the first, just give it a bit of a stretch. Okay, so I'm going to go right over middle. And you'll notice my middle has changed now. This is still the middle. So I'm going to go left over new middle, right over new middle, 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 and now I'm running out of room. So what I'm going to then do is I'm going to go left into middle, press down, right into middle, press down, and there I have a plait. Okay, so small world kneading first of all. This is to knock any air bubbles out by re-kneading it again. Then I'm going to roll it into a sausage. You can roll it on your surface if you feel that works for you. Okay, the gluten is now reacted with the water, so the dough is nice and stretchy. I can give it a wiggle. I can cross it over. And I can tie it into a knot, hiding both my ends, my top pressed down and my bottom also pressed down. I would also give it a bit of shaping in order for it to look like my knot. Okay, so the last one is free choice. Okay, so I'm going to be making a hedgehog. So literally you need to knead your dough, pinch its snout, sultanas for eyes, push those eyes in with your fingers. Okay, and then we're going to give Sonic, okay, a little bit of a trim. Okay, a little bit of character going on, and again make sure your scissors are clean obviously before you start, and that they're food scissors. Okay, so the more snipping I'm doing is causing the most spikes. Just give them a few more spikes. What you need to know is that your dough may change shape in the oven. Okay, so what started off like Sonic might not look quite as you'd hoped. So it's a case of experimenting with different ways. So a minute, I'm remembering that the yeast is going to activate and therefore it is going to get bigger in the oven. So far this recipe is now suitable for both vegetarian and vegan, and use a liquid to glaze it with. Now if you use normal cow's milk, then obviously it's not going to be suitable for vegan. However, there's nothing to stop you using soya milk in order to make your dough shiny. If you've not got any vegans in your household, then you could use a beaten egg to make your dough nice and shiny. Or you could go with not actually adding anything and see how that works out for you. Okay, now is the time. If you wanted to sprinkle it with some seeds such as pumpkin, sesame or sunflower, now's the time to do that. Okay, so I'm going to put my bread dough into the oven for 10 minutes, and after that time it should be risen and it should be golden. Okay, so you can see it's been approximately about 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take my bread out of the oven. Notice my head has fallen off my snowman. Okay, all's well that ends well. Okay, so I'm left with my dough. You can see that it's risen, you can see that it's golden, and it looks ready, so I'm going to put it onto a cool rack. Right, okay, so some quick tips about your bread making. Don't be tempted to cook your bread at this stage, as the dough will still be warm. It needs time to cool down in order to form a hard outer crust. It'll then be okay, and hopefully your dough shouldn't be doughy inside.